never stop, never settle. I got Henny all in my cup. I'm on top, I'm on a level, yeah. I'm tryna get to the back, got it on lock, got it on smash, yeah. She tryna holler what's up, I'm with the shits, this how it is, yeah. When you on your way up, I'm on my way, I'm on my way.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the NFS Podcast. I hope that you are having a great day and doing something to get after your life. Of course, I am your host, Daniel Valencia, and listen, you don't got to do a whole lot to show me some love on this podcast. All you got to do is share this to one other person if you found something of value, anything of value, really. And that genuinely means the world to me. Of course, if you could do me a favor, if you were on Apple Podcasts, please leave me a review. It could be 1 star, 5 stars. You can talk shit about me. You can say that you love what I've said. Either way, it goes an extremely long way, so please do me a favor and get that done if you can. And also, follow. Didn't know that was such a big thing. If you follow me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those things, or subscribe, it just looks really cool. And I get to see how many of you guys are tuning in regularly. But yeah, I absolutely love to see it. And of course, if you're hearing my voice and you've been a consistent listener of the podcast, you've probably noticed I have been gone. I've been MIA for quite a bit of time now, if I'm being honest. It feels like it's been about a month since the last upload of this podcast. I can actually pull it up since I'm at my computer. And if that is true, that is very, very, very fucking sad. But there's a lot to talk about. A lot's been going on in the past month or so. Let me pull up this stuff. A lot has been going on in the background that I hope you guys can understand. I'm trying to type in this password. I really want to see when's the last time that... Jesus. If you hear that clicking, that's my annoyingly loud keyboard. But a lot has been going on in the background. Of course, if you also have been a long-time listener, I got some stuff for you. So keep listening. Fast forward all the way to the end if you want to hear it. I'm definitely going to talk about it in the end, but I've been teasing at some stuff. Yeah, last time I dropped a podcast was April 18th. Today is Monday the 10th, and this won't be coming out until Sunday, so that's still another, 5-6 days. So yeah, it's been about a month, which is insane to think, especially with how consistent everything was going. So I appreciate all of you guys for sticking with me during this time. And I know having someone that's as inconsistent as I am can probably be a little bit frustrating, but I got really big things planned for the future. I got really, really big plans, and actually I feel like this break, shall I call it, was very much necessary. So a couple updates to the podcast, just to get some things out of the way beforehand. I am no longer doing a season-by-season thing. I wanted to do that in the beginning. I thought it'd be a cool idea, but in the long run, I just want it to be a running series of episodes, a running series of as many as I want. And I think I'm going to enjoy that a lot more as the creator of this. And now, with that being said, being the creator of this podcast, of the Never Fucking Settle podcast, there's been a lot going on. I have a lot of things on my plate, and in no means am I trying to give excuses or say like, oh, forgive me for not being gone. My job for you guys is to be 100% reliant, 100% on board, and 100% getting after it every chance that I get. But I was starting to feel a little burnt out with the podcast. It was less of, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and more of, I didn't really know what to talk about. I didn't want to make stuff just for the sake of making things, and to just let you get the last 30 minutes of my day, the shittiest 30 minutes of my day. I wanted it to be truly something that gives you some kind of value, some kind of effect, some kind of, good feeling to send you off on your day. Because at the end of the day, if you're spending time to listen to this, that means that I have a standard to uphold, and I haven't truly been upholding that standard. Now, I got some surprises. There are guests coming on fairly soon. I know this has been something that a lot of people have been asking me about, and I've been trying to figure out how to make it work, but guests are something that is in the work, and I am on the march of talking to people, and I think I've limited a little bit of my own resources and my own span of refusing to have guests because I wanted to have the perfect person or the right person. But in reality, I just want to start talking to more people, and so I'm definitely going to be bringing more and more people on. That way we can make it a little bit exciting. I know you guys are tired of just me talking a little bit, but this goes directly into what I wanted to talk about today, and what is my full motive for this specific episode. And for those of you that know me, you know I've read the book Relentless, which is actually over my left shoulder right now. 2 twice, 2 times so far. I'm actually going to read it again. I want to read it again because the guy that made it, Tim Grover, is a fucking monster when it comes to what he does. He's a sports performance specialist, and he worked with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, big names, and of course helps out big CEOs and business owners to make sure that they're getting the most out of their life and being relentless in their pursuit for greatness. Now, why does that matter? Why does that matter for you? Why does that matter for me? See, the thing is that over the span of the last month or so, there's been a lot of life-changing things and life-changing decisions that have kind of come to fruition here for me. And I've had to adjust and recalibrate and really assess what it is that I want from life. Because there's some things that I have to consider. What is my priority? What needs to get done? What needs to become a central focus of what I do? And if I just let everything go by and I'm just doing things for the sake of doing them and it's not really adding to my life, then I'm just kind of putting a lot of fluff in on top of the 20% that actually needs to get done, that's actually going to push me forward in my life, in my business, and my overall happiness. So I took a step back. I took a step back from everything except for my job. The only thing that I didn't take a step back is from my job. And I mean, good reason with that. I can't exactly just be like, hey, I need a month off to just think. But I took a long pause, which I think is extremely necessary. I think you need time to understand and reflect and to really get into your own head and really reassess what it is that you want from life, what it is that you expect out of yourself. What are your goals, your dreams, your aspirations? What does it mean to achieve for yourself? And I know I've talked about that in previous podcasts, and I've talked a lot about what I want from life and my big dreams and my big goals and da-da-da-da-da. But I haven't taken a second to reflect and to reminisce on the experiences that I've had so far as a 22-year-old fitness enthusiast. I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, but I hope to one day become one. The idea is that I'm pushing myself in that direction to start my own companies and start my own business and have those running off the ground and to add something that has a lot of success, has something to it, has something greater than just the surface level of things that's happening. And so this brings me back to the book Relentless, because I've read it twice, and it shows a lot of what it takes to become relentless in your pursuit of your dream, of your goals, of whatever you accomplish. And Tim Grover's coming out with a new book, and it's called Winning. It comes out on the 18th, 17th. I think it's the end of this week, if I'm not mistaken, or next Monday, one or the other. Either way, I pre-ordered it. I highly suggest you pre-order it. You can get it on Amazon or anything else that sells books. But I was listening to a podcast episode of the MF CEO by Andy Frisella, and Tim Grover was on it. And I've listened to this podcast 2 or 3 times now, and it's an hour and a half podcast. So we're talking about dedicating 4.5 hours of my life to just this single episode. And he talks a lot about winning, which, coincidentally, the book, Winning, that's the goal, that's the ideology. And it made me really understand, or at least I shouldn't say I understand. I'm still learning. I'm still developing. But it made me have to take a second for myself to really address, what does it mean to me to be a winner? What does it mean to win? What does it mean to achieve in that aspect? And I asked a poll on Instagram, and a lot of people had a lot of great responses. To each their own. Again, nobody is greater than another person just because of who they are. Nobody is correct or wrong in their sense of whatever idea they attach to that meaning. But one thing that they say for winning is that it's a sacrifice. Like winning is everything. Winning is everything. And I know I've come from a background of actually refuting that statement where it's like winning isn't everything. There's way more to life than just winning. There's way more to life than just winning at things. But that was in the context of just, school, playground bullshit, like whatever. That was in that context. And I realized that I never grew up from that mindset. I never grew up from thinking that, winning isn't everything. But I understand now. Because the quote comes from Kobe Bryant when it was referenced, what does winning mean to him? When he asked Kobe Bryant, what does winning mean to him? And he said, winning is everything. And it takes me a second because it felt like I took a punch to the gut. And it's like, okay, well, if someone that I admire and look up to, such as Kobe Bryant, is saying that winning is everything, why do I still have this stuck mindset? Especially when I preach, you either win or you fucking win. But there's deeper levels to everything. I may say one thing, but it doesn't mean that I fully intrinsic, like wholeheartedly comprehend what it is that it means, what it is to win at everything. And so I took a step back and I really allowed myself to process it. And winning is everything. It's not about being first, although you want to be first. It's not about being the absolute best at everything in your fucking life, because it's impossible. You can't be the best at everything in your life. If you want to be the greatest at something, it's going to require sacrifice in another field of your life. Hence why athletes, supposedly always have shitty relationships or have this like thing that haunts them, or this downside, or this other persona that you never see. And when it comes out, you're like, oh, this person's a fucking terrible person. It's because it requires a sacrifice. It requires a lot more from you than you can just see. And a lot of people don't reach that caliber of themselves, me included. Like I do not believe that I've reached that caliber of myself, because I expect a lot out of myself. I expect a higher caliber of my own work. But winning being everything is like, it's been resonating in my head, and it's been clanging around. Like I want to win more than anything else in the world now. I want to win in the aspect of like, I don't just want to fucking do things. I don't want to just go out and do something because I have to do it, or because it's something that I was told to do, or because it's part of a regimen or a routine or a habit. I want to make sure when I go out there, it's like, I do this because I do it with pride. I do it because it's fucking everything to me, because I only have a finite amount of time on this earth. Let's say I live to 80. I have this poster in front of me that says Memento Mori, and it's a stoicism poster, and all it is every single week of someone's life from the day they're born to 80, because average lifespan of a male is 80 or some shit like that. But it's filled out until my current age, 22. And so the goal is to fill out every single block as you go. And when I look at this, it can be very frightening, because you look at it and you're just like, oh shit, like 2 whole chunks of that block, 20 years of my life are gone. 22 years of my life are gone. If I have 80, that means I've burnt a quarter of my life. But you got to really understand, like, look at it. Okay, out of those 20 years, how many years have I been able to make decisions for myself? And I don't mean like, oh, like I'm going to go get a fucking bag of chips at the gas station. I mean, how many of those years have I taken some sort of responsibility into my own hands and tried to develop myself, tried to level myself up, tried to push my boundaries, push myself, tried to win at what I want? I'm like, okay, out of the 20 years, maybe 3. At best 3. 4 if we're really, really pushing it and trying to like stretch and think when I was trying to look at stuff, but realistically about 3. I was like, okay, so out of the 22 years, I didn't really start until I was 19, which is fairly young. Of course, if you're listening to this, like that doesn't mean that you have to be on the same page or had to have been on the same page, or means that I'm moving at a faster pace and you're moving at a slower pace. There's things that you've done in your life and you've accomplished more than I have. So to, celebrate your victories, but hear me out. So if those 3 years, you spend about half your life sleeping, or some odd. I sleep like 6 hours a night, so probably a little less than half my life. But let's say that half that time is gone because I'm asleep. 1.5 years. Okay, 1.5 years. If I dedicate 1.5 years of my life to improving every single day, what is that? 365 days in a year. So that means we have like 520 odd days. I'm not quick at math, but you guys know what I mean. But yeah, 532. I don't know, dude. I'm not. You shouldn't come to me for math advice very fast. But nonetheless, like 500 some odd days of self-improvement, trying to get 1% better, incrementally better. And that does not mean that I go from one day I'm shit at talking in front of a crowd, and the next day I'm a world-renowned public speaker. It goes from one day I'm shit at talking to a crowd, and the next day I'm slightly less shitty. Slightly, almost insignificantly less shitty. Like that's the difference day to day. But if you keep on getting insignificantly less bad at something, day after day after day after day after day after day, then all of a sudden in a month's time, it's like, whoa, you made a lot of progress. Like, and it looks like it's overnight. But people don't understand that it's like you went through the process to win your days. See, because when I look at this and all those blocks are filled out in black, the question doesn't become, oh, fuck, those are gone. They're done. I can't believe life is so short and I don't have it. It goes, okay, out of all those blocks, how many of those weeks did I win? How many of those weeks did I we start off, we wake up, the scoreboard's 0-2-0. It's you against you. It's 0-0. You might have won yesterday and been 100-0 and shoved every single ounce of energy down the losing side of yourself's fucking throat. But cool, congratulations. You wake up again, 0-0. That score is even. If anything, it's 0-45. You're in the negative. You got to make up for it. But every single time that you wake up, you don't recollect. Your life doesn't fulfill off of your previous victory, because if you don't win today, that means you've lost today. And it's like, okay, cool. And if you win on Monday, you have a fat ass victory. Cool. You won on Monday. You let Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday fly by, and you lose on those days because you're still riding high off of the victory on Monday. And then you're like, oh, cool. And then you win on Thursday, and you're like, sick, I got a victory. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you lose again. You can look at it like, oh, I won on Monday and I won on Thursday. I fucking did. I'm great. But out of 7 days, you lost 5 of them. Again, I'm not great at math, but you didn't win that week. You lost that week. Because what did Sal Frisella said? Something like, life's like a tree. You're either growing or dying. Which I full-heartedly believe. I don't believe anymore in the idea of maintaining who you are as a person. Maintaining your current status, your current being. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because let me think. If you're a child and you're moving at X rate, you're growing up, you're doing good, and then all of a sudden, like at the 5th grade, you're like, fuck it, I don't want to move. I don't want to stop. I'm just going to keep at that same level, same intensity, same attitude, same dream. You can maintain as a what is it, 5-year-old, 5th grader? What does it matter? As a 5th grader, you can maintain as a 5th grader, but life keeps going, time keeps going. All of a sudden, you're 17. But if you're still thinking, maintaining, and acting like a 5th grader, yeah, you might have maintained, quote unquote, as a 5th grader, but in reality, you're way the fuck behind. If you're not actively growing yourself as a person, if you're not actively growing at something and gaining, you are actively losing. You're playing against yourself. You're not winning in your own right, and you deserve. Fuck that. I don't want to use that word. You owe it to yourself. You don't deserve it, because when you deserve stuff, it's either out of entitlement because you're like, oh, I did this, so I deserve this, or it's because you did the work, you put in the effort, and you reap the rewards. But you don't look at it like, oh, I deserve it. It comes because you understand that you put in the work, you put in the time, you put in the effort. There's a difference there. But you have to reap the rewards of whatever effort you put. And sometimes the reward is a really shitty situation. That saying where it's like, why do bad things happen to good people? It's because bad things happen to fucking everybody. It's just when it happens to good people, everybody gets confused and lost. Everybody's like, why did that happen? Like, he's such a good person. Like, how could this ever happen? It's like, guess what? Life doesn't give a fuck. Life does not care if you are a good person or a bad person. Now, I say that with a little bit of context. Things are going to happen regardless. If a bad thing happens to you, it's not because you are a good person. It is not because you are a bad person. It is because you are supposed to learn from the experience. And sometimes the experience is a really shitty situation. When I've experienced death in my family, and I've talked about that in previous podcasts, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't anybody's fault. It happened. And you can go around blaming and be like, oh, but everybody's such a good person. He was such a good person. Like, these things happen. And it's like, it's true. These things happen. And as sad and as miserable and as terrible as a situation it is, it's, are you going to win in that situation and grow as a person, or are you going to lose? And I know that is a very dark and a very, very deep and almost probably rude and insensitive thing to say, because I use such a deep cutting thing. But it's like, everybody says, oh, when I die, I don't want you to cry. I want you to celebrate me. How many people go and celebrate the person's life? Truly. It's like, I will never lie to you guys and say, because I look up to Nipsey Hussle so much as a person now, that it was like, oh, when he passed away, I was there and I was crying and like my heart was broken. No, I didn't listen to him. I didn't know any of the stuff. And I feel bad now that I never paid attention to the amount of work and effort and grind that he put in while he was alive, that I wasn't able to pay homage during that time. And so now my commitment for him as a person is, I'm not going to lie and fake and be like, oh, I was always a day one fan. But what I am going to do is I'm going to learn as much as possible from him. And I'm going to get the knowledge that he put out into the world out of respect. Because if he put that knowledge out in the world, then he wanted other people to win. Because that's one of the biggest things. You can be very selfish. You can be extremely selfish when it comes to winning. That's a very big thing. You can say like, oh, I want to win everything. Everything is about me. Everything is about me winning. I want to push stuff. And I think that's where people get really misconstrued. And they're like, winning isn't everything. Don't be a dick about it. Don't be that guy that's like, oh, I need to win. I need to win. I need to win. Because there is a difference between arrogance and confidence. But think of it like this. If you go out and in my shoes, if I go out and I bought my first house, that's a big win. If everything goes right, everything goes smooth, I have the money, I have the financial stability, the support, everything goes as smoothly as possible. I buy a house. That's a big victory. That's a big win for me. And now I could also say like, oh, look at my house, it's better than everybody else's, and like start rambling and stuff like that. But that's not the goal. That's not winning. That's being an asshole. But winning, what that comes from is, if you win, you buy that house. In some way, shape, or form, I can almost bet money that you've made your parents proud. And that is a big win for them. Because it's like my kid has grown up. They've been able to buy their own house. I raised them properly because they can afford to do these things. And they can afford the lifestyle they have. That's a big victory. For siblings and cousins, it's like, damn, like if he could do it, I can do it. There's got to be a way. I got to figure it out. That's a big victory. That's a win for them. You make them winners because they want to achieve more. They want to go after it. They understand what it takes to get there. Your cousins, your friends, they're like, damn, look at, like they did it. They did it. Like people radiate off of winners. You might call it a ton of different things. You might say, oh, it's the energy you put out in the world, or it's the vibe that you give, or just you as a person. But in reality, it's like if you are a winner, if you're going after, if you are seeking to choose victories, if you are seeking to push yourself and to go after more, then you're doing something for everybody else. And this is where I got to be honest. Like Tim Grover said in the Andy Frisella podcast, and I'm really hooked on this one. So a lot of the credit of the stuff that I'm learning on this one goes to that podcast. So check it out. Check out the Real AF podcast, Andy Frisella, for a lot more deeper of a dive, because a lot of this is a good amount is paraphrasing. But I got to reflect on myself. Have I been winning my weeks? I don't feel like I have. Have I been winning my days? Have I been letting the stress of the world and anxiety and everything else under the sun get to me? I do believe so. I believe that I've been losing a lot lately just because I haven't been putting in the time. Because it flips like that. It flips very fast where it's like one day you feel like you're on top and you're after everything. I felt like, oh, the podcast is going smooth. I'm making clothing. Things are going well. I'm getting traction on Instagram. Like I'm making TikToks. Like, oh, everything's going smooth. And then I let my foot off the gas. And it's like, cool. I woke up and I had a big streak of winning my days, of winning my weeks, of getting after it. And then all of a sudden, I depended on that momentum to keep me rolling forward without putting in the equal amount of work. And so I slowed down. I noticed, because all of a sudden podcast episodes weren't coming out. Viewership was going down. I was getting less engagement. I was feeling more lethargic. I was feeling more sad with myself because I wasn't taking action. I was falling into a rut of not doing anything. And then I found my mindset starting to change. I started to just think of things as, I just started to think of things differently. Because it's interesting how quickly things can change when you take your foot off that gas pedal. how quickly things can switch up on you when you're not giving it the attention it deserves. Because I think that's a big thing that we miss right now. We miss the fact that you don't just get things because you've done something. You don't get things because, like, Michael Jordan is still putting in work. He might not be playing basketball, but he is a savant when it comes to business. He's still putting in the work. You got to think, the people that are achieving high things and might be getting a little bit of fame off their notoriety, like Flavor Flav. This is such an outlandish example, but Flavor Flav, huge star in the 80s and 90s era. But he took his foot off the gas and he wasn't able to produce. And now it's like, oh, he went from someone that was probably worth millions to someone that is probably making money because of his likeness, but is mocked. And that's not to harp on him, but it's to understand that it's like you can fall off very fast, like I did. I fell off extremely hard. It became difficult for me to even contemplate making these podcasts. It became difficult for me to really stay in my place and to get after it. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. Not because I truly didn't want to do it anymore. Not because of, oh, I hate the podcast and I don't want to do this shit and it's ruining my life. But more of like every time that I thought about doing the podcast, I didn't have that drive. But there's a very simple solution to this. A very simple solution. That motivation and drive derives from action. Motivation and drive derives from action. And I stopped taking action. I completely stopped taking action. And so I come to you on this revamped episode in this new entry in the NFS podcast, saying thank you for those of you that have stuck around, for those of you that have continued to support me, even when I stopped continuing to support myself. I appreciate you and I love you, and I genuinely, I couldn't do any of this without you. The continued support, the continued love, the continued everything that you have given me, it's made me the person that I am today. And it continues to push me in a way that I could never think of, because there are times in my life and going to be times in the future that are going to test the ever-living shit out of me. But you hold me accountable. Even when I fall short, you hold me accountable. And I think we all need that. And there's going to be episodes where it's very high energy, but this one doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be that. So thank you. Now, to the news that I promised you guys, for those of you, if you skipped to the fucking end already, to the news that I promised you in the beginning. Let me pull up this website. No, let me know. Aha, got it. So, for those of you that are on here and you were listening to this and tuning in, there is a very, very, very special announcement to make. What the hell's happening? Sorry, my computer's being weird. There's a very special announcement to make. Now, if you go to, what is the website? If you go to never-settle-fitness.myshopify.com, oh, that is a mouthful. You might see that there's a little login site. A little bit of a login site. But if you go in, it asks you for a password. And I have not given you any information for the password. Actually, I don't think anybody's correctly guessed what the password is, which is kind of funny because I've been saying it a lot. It's been literally everywhere. The hints have been surrounding you. So there's a little bit of context clue there. But that's all right, because the goal wasn't for you to know what the password is just off rip. That should never have been. I mean, to a degree, if you did get it, that's fucking great on you, because you are somewhat of a smart genius and a path, great. But if you go onto there and you type in "The Wolves Are Coming," THEWOLVESARECOMING, into that password log, you're going to see the first ever rendition of the Never Settle store. Now, this store is quite literally that. It's an online store for me to sell some of the merch that I have, and it's going to keep on growing. The goal is for me to put on any programs that I make as far as workout programs or things if I want to make stuff like that for you to be able to go into my online coaching thing, which is something that I'm trying to develop, an online coaching system that is made specifically for people that want to improve their strength, their speed, and their overall fitness. It is not a weight loss program. That is not what I want to do. If you want to lose weight and just get overall healthy and not train maybe in the athletic standpoint or in more of the hypertrophy bodybuilding standpoint, go to my work. Simple. I don't need to make a buck off nothing. But if you go on there, there's a special surprise because I got 2 new products that are getting released later in this year, hopefully within the next couple of months, which I still need to finish up a little bit of details on that. But check it out. Go to the shop. neversettlefitness.myshopify.com. Use the password "the wolves are coming" and give it a fucking look. I promise, if you like the sweaters, if you bought the sweaters, I hope you guys are going to like this shit because I'm fucking hyped. And that's all I got today, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. Take care.